One day, I was sitting at the computer and it kept crashing. Back in the late 90s, computers weren't grounded, and so they'd get a lot of glitches and static electricity. You get a glitch on software, whatever, and it would go down, then you have to restart it and back and forth. And I did this a couple of times, and so then I realized it was static electricity, so I took a piece of copper tape and I laid it across the top of my desk. It was like 1-inch copper tape, laid it across the top of my desk, connected it to an alligator clip and a wire, and connected it to the close nearby electrical ground. Then I would touch the copper tape before I touched the computer, discharge the static electricity into the copper tape in the ground. Then I could go type in whatever I wanted. The computer worked fine. And then shortly after that, I put my order in. Everything was done. I walked outdoors, sat on a bench in Sedona, and a big tour bus pulls up. And on this tour bus is a group of Japanese tourists. They're a little shorter in stature, and they were all wearing big white, looked like Nike tennis shoes. And I thought to myself, there must have been a strip mall back where they had them on sale and everybody bought the same pair because it was so obvious. And I didn't think too much about it, but it just crossed my mind. I said, I wonder, and this is intuitive, I wonder if there's a consequence to humans wearing these rubber-soled shoes, because when you wear them, I mean, because of my background, I knew that we were insulated, and I didn't know, and I just thought about it. So I went home that night, and I'd been playing with computers and static electricity on before. I went home that night, and I took a voltmeter and took like a 30, 40-foot wire, stuck it into a ground rod, stuck it in the earth, connected to the ground rod, connected it to the meter, and then I put the meter and took the live probe and walked around the house with this meter, and then I could read all the static electricity that was going up and down on my body. Every step I took, every time I would sit on, the bed had foam and static electricity, and everything in our homes has dissimilar materials. So we have lots of static electricity in the homes. You don't see it unless you go touch a doorknob, and you see a spark. If you see a spark, that's 3,000 to 5,000 volts, depending on the humidity.
So whenever you get that's 3,000 to 5,000 volts.
Yes, doesn't have a lot of amperage, but there's that much voltage difference.
Gotcha.
And so you'll get this spark, and that's huge. That's a huge amount of voltage, and then you've got all the EMFs, and most people are worried about the EMFs, but they're only around 1 volt or 2 volts, so they're really kind of more noise, what we would call background noise, and but anyhow, I started. And then when I went up to my bedroom, that's where I found that the EMFs were the highest, because, when they build your house, they put up all the 2x4s, and then an electrician comes by at waist high and drills the holes. They run the wires back and forth to the outlets and up and down and everything. And then they slap up the wallboard. Then you bring your bed in, put it up against the wall. Your head is about 6 inches away from a bundle of Romex. So goodness. the most you're ever exposed to EMFs is when you're in bed sleeping, because your head's up against the wall.
Oh my gosh!
But
makes you want to turn the pillow around and put your feet up against the wall. But I'm not sure that would help.
No, that wouldn't help, because your feet are conductive too. So
yes.
Your voltage is going to be the same at your head to your toe, because your body is a conductive property.
Yeah. People
are worried about the metal springs. The springs aren't the problem; it's your body that's the problem, because it's a conductor.
Sure.
So, but anyhow, I started playing with it, and so that night I thought it was still early enough. I made it down to the hardware store, and I went and bought a roll of 3-inch wide metal aluminum foil duct tape that you would wrap around furnaces.
Yeah.
And taped it across the bed, connected it to a wire, threw it out the window, stuck it in the ground rod, and then did the same for the voltmeter. And so then I would lay down on the wire, hold the voltmeter in my hand, and then all of these voltages would disappear, which I knew. As long as I was grounded, then all of this noise disappears, because when you're connected to the earth is infinitely large, and your body's infinitely small, so your body's going to equalize with the earth, the electrical potential of the earth, rather than the environmental noise. So anyhow, I kind of understood all of this from my electromagnetic interference or preventing electromagnetic interference in the communications industry. And static electricity is always popping and always whatever. So grounding is very important. And I had a second nature. Everything in electrical, you ground. So anyhow, I was laying there on this tape, grounded out. Meter was reading 0. And I had the meter on my chest, and the next thing I knew, it was morning. The meter was down by my side, and I had fallen asleep. And what was surprising to me was I was 54 years old at that time. I grew up I was a cowboy. I have done everything in broken bones. I've done everything you can imagine. I skied for 30 years. I played tennis for a couple years, but I'm very active. And at 54, I had a lot of pain in my body, chronic pain. And I remember one time going out the backyard outside this place, and I looked up at the sky and I said, God, why did you make my body with so much pain in it? Because, it was just terrible. And not only that, everybody I knew has pain. Everybody has pain. Nobody can sleep and everybody has pain. And so anyhow, didn't mean to sidetrack there, but anyhow, so I woke up and I said, well, there's something going on here, because normally I don't sleep. Normally I have to take Advil or something because I had so much chronic pain. And so I did it for a couple of more nights and I went to sleep. And so it really helped me sleep by being on grounded, having skin in touch with this conductive tape. I would just fall asleep within a few minutes. And I was fatigued, tired, and I needed it anyway. But so anyhow, then a couple of days later, a couple of friends, I said, you guys got to come see this. And I showed them what I was doing. And I said, and you sleep better. And nobody sleeps. So I said, if you want to try it. So we went over to their houses and took some excess tape, made up a ground plane for them to sleep on, connected it to the ground. And a couple of days later, one of the guys came over and he said, he says, you do sleep better. This is great. He says, but do you think it can have anything to do with my arthritis? I says, no, I don't think so. I think it's just sleep. I think it's just grounding out this environmental noise, and that's allowing you to sleep better. And so on. And so all of a sudden, a day later, I recognized all my pain, my chronic pain was almost gone. And I thought, wow, there's something really going on here. And back then, all there was AOL, on the internet. And so I couldn't find anything there. I went to Lexis to do some data retrieval to find out if there's anything on why grounding the body reduces pain or improves sleep. Nothing anywhere. And so I went down to first of all to University of Arizona, nothing there. Then I ended up going to UCLA. I figured I'll go out there. Those guys know everything, and I'll find out figure this out. And and so I packed everything up, went out there, got there, and made some connections with the sleep lab. And they looked at me. We were sitting around a table. They looked at me. And one of the guys says, you expect us to believe somebody's going to tie a wire around somebody's toe and stick a nail in the earth and they're going to sleep better? They said, get out of here. You're nuts.